Hello, I'm Javier Carbonell. I was born in Valencia and I'm studying here the MSc International Relations.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Vivas. I am from Barcelona and I study an MSc in Philosophy and Public Policy here at LSE. I feel only Catalan, and for me it would be a bit hard to explain because for me it's my identity. Of course I question it sometimes, but you know, since I was born in my household and with my friends, I've always lived like, I don't know if I can say that, but like as a Catalan, and I've never felt represented by the Spanish government or what the official Spanish identity. I don't know if I can say that either, but I have never felt attached to it or at all. So I think it's like a very difficult area because we could discuss like academically. There are many scholars that have discussed even the existence of these identities, and of course I acknowledge that in these identities that you would say Catalan, Spanish, French or English, there are many imagined things that maybe we've never checked, and I acknowledge that, but at the same time I feel that I am a part of a political community which is different from the Spanish one. Yeah, I'm sorry I cannot be more clear about it.
No, I would say that in Spain, as in any other country, but especially in Spain, it's very diverse. There's many different ways of being Spanish, and I think it's a pity that some people from Spain think that their way of being is not represented in the Spanish identity. I speak Catalan and Spanish, and I feel both Valencian and Spanish. And although I feel differences with some people from Madrid, or some people from Barcelona, or some people from Asturias, I think that the Spanish identity has the possibility to collect them all and be part of.
Yeah, here I disagree. Historically, it's proof that Spain has failed over and over again to include identities, some identities like the Catalan and the Basque mainly. Just one clear example of this for me is that we cannot speak in Catalan or Basque or Galician in the parliament. I mean, what kind of inclusion is that if you just can speak in Spanish or Castilian, as we say, but it's synonym. So for me it's like pretty obvious, and we've tried one time and another to just come on, let us speak in Catalan, and no, they won't do that. I mean, you as a Catalan speaker should feel this. I mean, this discrimination, and I don't see it in another way. It's just.
Yeah, no, I mean, I understand the point, and as a Catalan speaker, I feel that historically, but I just think that today, where there's this system of autonomies where different regions have the possibility of having all the schooling in Catalan, for example, or a lot of the schooling in Basque, in the Basque country, and you can speak and you can write literature. I think it's inclusive, the Spanish identity. I feel included. Although you say, well, there's some kind of discrimination, but there's also some kind of discrimination towards people in the center of Spain regarding transportation, for example. For them, it's very difficult to go. And they would say, well, the economic development in the coast of Spain has been much more promoted than in the center of Spain. So, of course, if you try to find them, you always find some problems. I just find it a pity that you think that for those problems you should throw the whole Spanish identity. And I think it's a pity, not because you do it, it's just that the whole situation is like that. I agree that Spanish people have had also a big role not including. I just think that Spain's actually, in this moment, is much more diverse than that picture and that those people. What you said of Spain, I would say exactly the same thing about Catalonia. you also find many people in Catalonia hating Spain, and really, really massively. And
But what do you mean by hating?
Yeah,
I
of
would
course.
never say I'm superior for feeling just Catalan or just speaking Catalan.
Well, I don't think they're going to be really good. I think Catalonia would be outside of the European Union. And I think the states have been very clear in that issue, the European states. Unfortunately, I don't want that, but I don't think the relations between Spain and Catalonia would be good at all. And I don't think that's good for the economy. That's not good for political stability. Always is not good for the economy. Of course, there's many more issues than just economic issues. For example, in the question of linguistic issues, I find that these pro-Catalan policies will go more extreme, and I fear that in a very distant future, sociology of language will tell you, well, it's very difficult to maintain two languages in a region when one of them has all the state support and another one doesn't.
Yeah, tell me.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. So like, let's not do that, but on the opposite language.
Yeah, don't worry, we won't do that.
Well, I'm not so sure. I wouldn't be so sure about that. So basically that would be.
So the consequences. First, I think it's very difficult to tell because obviously it would depend on how this is made. I mean, Javier did a very good point, which is the relationship between Catalonia and Spain. I mean, I think that from the Catalan point of view, or at least from the independentist point of view, I don't have any problems with Spain. I mean, I cannot deny the links between both countries, and as I said, I feel lucky that I can be bilingual or trilingual or speak 4 languages. But so yeah, it would depend on how mature we can be, because if there's a majority in Catalonia that supports independence, why shouldn't we do that? I mean, and why should Spain feel outraged by it? It's what I don't understand. And
Okay.
You could say like, okay, you can say whatever you want, but they will feel outraged, and so everything's going to be very bad. But I hope that at some point just reason overcomes outrage, and that we can have fair relations. And about the European Union thing, even if it's true, I mean, I cannot deny what the European states have said, although I'm very sad about the role that Europe's taking in this issue, because not about the position, the violence that the police broke into the voters in the 1st of October, but also that we are having political prisoners nowadays and they are not saying a thing. Yeah, we can talk about that.
We'll talk about that afterwards, yeah.
So I'm sad because I am a European Union supporter, but I don't want Europe to be a club of states that just defend each other. I want to have a European Union that really has the democracy bottom up and really defends human rights and democracy. Catalonia does have this right to self-determination. Yeah.
I don't think so, because rights of self-determination were thought of in what we call international law, specifically for colonial or oppressed countries.
True.
Yeah, and you can find the Commission of Vienna, the Commission of Venezia, sorry, it has a text. It says very clearly that doesn't go against sovereignty of states. It goes against specific situations of conflict situations. It's to solve a conflict that has escalated to war in an extent that, of course, the Catalan conflict has not escalated. And I think that a referendum is a political tool. So it's something you can use. You don't have a right or not. It's something you can use in a specific situation and can be helpful or cannot. So I do think that, for example, in this case, it could be helpful. Of course, a legal referendum has happened in Canada or has happened in the UK. However, I don't think there's a right, because obviously I would criticize the own notion of nation, the own notion of right, and then even if we accept those, the international law does not apply these rights to democratic states where there's not a conflict that is escalated to a war.
We have a right because there's a political community in Catalonia that wants this. So why cannot we, as you said, why cannot we have a vote on that? I mean, if we lose, we will go home and that's it. And I think that, yeah, as it exists a group of people that want to decide that, then we have the right to.
So that's you're making a jump. There's one thing that many people want that, and it may be interesting to offer that as a political solution to a political problem. There's many political problems, and that doesn't mean that the language of rights is the case. Just for wanting something, you don't have the right to it. It's not the same saying it should be good and saying you have the right. The right and the notion of right entails an entitlement, and even if we agree that international law does not rule out a referendum or secession movement, that does not mean that it encourages right.
Yeah,
or that it says Catalonia has a right to self-determination. I think those are two different moves. So I cannot. So like,
okay, but at the end of the day, we agree that if you have a political community that wants to vote on that we can do that.
No, but I think
as a tool, you said.
No, but as a tool,
so let's not talk about rights that you don't want to talk about.
No.
So then, I mean, what's at the end of the day, the outcome would be a vote that we can have with guarantees, not with police kicking us on the head.
So what I would say is that as a tool, it has to, in a specific context, it cannot be done however or just in any mode. And the problem I think with Catalonia and the Catalan government pursuing a referendum that was against Spanish and Catalan laws, because it was against the two majorities of the parliament needed to do a reform of the semi-constitution of the statute. I think that's not the way of going.
If you win the election with absolute majority in the parliament of Catalonia by promising that you would have held a referendum, but if you have a democratic majority for doing that, why shouldn't you do that? And there's some parties that I know that you're talking about these 6th and 7th of September sessions in the parliament, but there's people there that voted against in that day that have been that presented to the election, but by saying that they would agree to in doing a referendum, Podemos, not the Socialist Party,
but not that kind of referendum.
First of all, some jurists, some constitutional jurists in Spain say that the Constitution of Spain could be read in different many ways, and that, I mean, I'm not an expert in the Constitution of Spain, so I cannot say, but it's what I've heard, and they say that it could be, it could be accepted in some way that we held a vote on that. And I mean, we know that a constitution is just a formal thing, and then it has to be developed through laws. That's how it works.
Very clear in
there's
Spain.
One very clear article which says that the unity of Spain is sacred. They don't say that, but it does. I'm not saying anything about it.
Every constitution has one of those.
Well, I don't know if any.
Everyone.
But in any case, that is not necessarily against having a referendum, or at least to ask people what they think about that. And if a substantial majority in Catalonia said yes, then I think that the Spanish state should recognize that they have a problem and they should solve it politically, not judicially, not through the police violence.
But then again, we are going back to the referendum as a tool, not as a right. And the problem here is, like, I don't think you can. I think the vast majority. In the vast majority of countries, it's forbidden to call for a referendum, except in the constitution of Ethiopia and Liechtenstein. Every constitution,
and
the state says. No, that's not the case. But we can discuss the specific case. But the vast majority of countries say that the unity is sacred and cannot call for a referendum. However, what the Spanish constitution says is that there can be a referendum called by the legitimate authority, which is the Spanish government, as in the UK was the government of David Cameron, and as in Canada was the government of the Canadian people.
I obviously think it's disproportionate. So my family was beaten in the 1st of October, and so what can I say? I mean, it was crazy, it was outrageous, and with the imprisonment of the government, it's unthinkable that they can do something like this. But just what I wanted to say is I don't understand what they are thinking about doing that. I mean, who are they trying to convince? It's what
not a question of convincing, it's a question of breaking the law.
But you have many ways to enforce the law.
And
if you are so worried about that,
then what I'm saying is that I disagree with that
concrete
concrete way of enforcing the law. I think it's disproportionate, but I agree with the enforcing of the law. You cannot just break the law and I think that calling for a legal referendum and trying to change the Catalan system, not having 2/3 of the majority, as the Catalan system says, is violating the rights of many Catalans who are against that political project.
But if you have
and of course,
the opportunity to go and vote no, so the ones who prevented us from voting weren't the Parliament of Catalonia, was the Spanish police that was beating grand mass.
I agree with disproportionate, but I agree that you should not allow illegal acts in a state, whatever the reasons are, even if they're the best reasons.
So yeah, maybe we should ask ourselves why voting should be illegal in a democratic state.
So, do you think the Spanish response was inadequate and disproportionate?
Yeah, absolutely.
I also think so.